Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 154 of the Meet the Farmers podcast with me, Ben Eagle. Yes, it is the Jubilee weekend, or it is at least now when we're recording. And I cannot thank my guest enough for doing this now, given he was working in dairy anyway, so he hardly gets much time off anyway. So the thought of him spending it with me is massively privileged. So thank you, Andy. Andy Farrow is on the show. Andy is a dairy farm manager from near Shrewsbury, who'd learnt his trade in New Zealand. They're milking 240 crossbreds, which we're going to hear about, spring calving, and does some interesting stuff on the side as well. So, Andy, welcome to the podcast. Thanks so much for coming on. How are you doing this Jubilee weekend?
Morning, Ben. Yeah, didn't get the invite from the Queen, so that's one with you. Just as good, I think.
She said no today, so I had to get you in instead.
No, very well, thanks.
Yeah, let's start with the farming bit. Tell us about the herd and how many. So you're milking 240, but tell us a bit about the herd.
Yeah, milking 240. Permanent pasture across 255 acres. Very much a low input, low output sort of system. We feed prominently, just try and milk as much as we can off grass. The cows really only get about 400 to 500 kilos of corn through the parlour. A little bit of fodder beet at calving time, just to get the positive energy balance. But yeah, just try to get as much milk off forage as possible, really. We're organic and PWAB, which is produced without antibiotics, selling to OMSCO.
Yeah, let's talk about OMSCO actually first. For anyone who's maybe producing conventionally, is there anything different about OMSCO in terms of what they're looking for? What are the standards that you have to meet?
Yeah, so obviously ordinary organic. I hate using the ordinary organic because that sounds such a throwaway comment. Yeah. But so they can't use insecticides and artificial fertilizers, pesticides, things like that. With OMSCO, from the 1st of April this year, they went PWAB, so all their producers are antibiotic free. As we run the ordinary organic sort of way, it starts from colostrum control. We find that is the key for us, making sure that 4 litres of colostrum gets into those calves. They recommend from 6 to 9 hours after calving, but we do it within the hour. And I think that is key to make sure that the cow and the calf has got the best immunity, really, for the rest of its life. We can't use antibiotics. We're allowed to use anti-inflammatories and hormones and stuff, still with a pretty steep withdrawal period. So that it can be quite costly in throwing away milk. But yeah, I mean, I think having the low stress way of farming, we have to put very much more preventative rather than cure, if you like. So we're very much focused on preventing the problem before it starts. So a lot of concrete sleeper tracks, very hot on condition scoring, making sure the feet. We have very low mastitis anyway, and cell count today was 111. That was every cow in the tank. That's just not discarding any milk. So yeah, it's very much looking at the cow, making sure that they're working as best they can, and not pushing them too hard. Low stress, as I said.
What's the TB situation like in Shropshire?
Hit and miss. We're not too bad. We've only had one breakdown in the 5 years we've been here. Down south towards South Shropshire, where my owner of the farm is, Tim. It's pretty bad. It's not the best. We have had a badger cull across the Shropshire. It's not. I don't think it's a pretty picture.
So talking of health and fertility, obviously you talked a lot of prevention there. What are the kinds of things that you're doing or not doing to monitor herd health and fertility?
Yeah, so the main one we've got is an Affy milk collar, which every cow is got. That's mainly fertility. That will read a bit like they the way they describe it to me, it's a bit like the Wii, the computer game, the Wii. It tracks movement basically, so it can give.
That's such a good way of describing
it. Try layman's terms. So it tracks movement, and it'll give an increase in activity or decrease in activity. So obviously, there's an increase in activity. They're either bullying or they've broken out and they're running down the road, or a decrease in activity, which means that they could obviously have a problem. They're not eating. It does eating and rumination as well. So that's key. And then it gives me a list of cows every day, the ones bullying or the ones that are possibly sick and need looking at. So that's a really good indicator. Other than that, we do quarterly locomotion and condition scoring across the herd. And then obviously Yoni's testing as well.
A typical day for you on the farm? What does it look like?
There's only 2 full-time members of staff. So we run a pretty lean farm. Lean, it seems to be quite a popular thing now, running a lean farm. It has to be, really.
Is that just another way of saying you can't get enough staff?
Well, yeah. No. We like the farm is pretty. It is pretty low maintenance. So yeah. I'd like to say we try to concentrate on what we're good at, and then what we're not good at, like tractor work. I don't like tractor work too much. I leave it to contractors. Yeah. So slurry, muck, silaging, all of that is done by contractors. Yep. We concentrate on the cows. All of our herd gets in calf to Angus. Okay. And we sell our Angus calves at 2 weeks old, and they go to a National Trust farm down in Oxfordshire, and they finish them for Waitrose. We don't produce our own offspring. So there's 2 farms. I didn't explain that. So Tim Downs, who owns the farm, he's got another farm 18 miles south of this farm, and he rears all my replacements.
Okay, right. Yeah, because I was wondering. I knew about the connection with Tim, but I didn't know how it sort of worked.
Yeah, so this is just purely a grazing block. All of our cows are put into beef, which is great if we're TB free, which we have been most of the time. We did have a shutdown a couple of years ago, and yeah, we had over 200 calves here for a few extra months, which was a bit of a nightmare. We're not really set up for that. But luckily we came clear and we managed to move the calves off pretty swiftly. So that was good. So yeah, going back to the replacements, the replacement heifers, they come back on farm just before they're housed. So I don't know, late October time. They're housed, and then they're here for a long enough period that they settle down before calving in February. Okay. So day-to-day running, I mean, this time we're a spring calving block. Like to keep a nice tight block. We're calving the first 12 weeks of the year from February. Now we're in the serving period. We've had a pretty good. We're just coming out. Well, about the fourth week of serving. We had 94 submission rate in the first 3 weeks, which is good because we can concentrate on the cows. We're not distracted by silaging and stuff like that. We can put all of our effort into where we think what we're good at. Yeah. And then, so the first 6 months is pretty hectic in the year. Once all the cows in calf, it's pretty much downhill, which is, it runs in line about a 6 weeks holiday, which gives me enough time then to start paying back with the family and having a bit of time off with them. And then snowballing towards Christmas, which is always a bit of a quiet time. So yeah, in the up to about the school holidays, we're pretty flat out. But then after that, it's downhill then. Yeah, so it's just quite a typical New Zealand system, to be honest.
Okay. And in terms of your milk, what are you looking for in terms of fat content, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, we do try and keep the fat content higher. So it's a crossbred farm, crossbred herd. We did have a few Holsteins, but they've weeded themselves out. So yeah, we do get paid for constituencies. So we've got a few Jersey crosses, we've got Shorthorns, okay. We've got Norwegian Red, okay, Friesian. So it's quite a pretty herd to look at.
Yeah, yeah. I was going to say, everyone, if you actually look at, if you take a look at Andy's Instagram, actually, yeah, you get a good idea of that.
Yeah. Yeah, so we're looking for more a durable cow. In being the antibiotic free, we're looking for a cow that's good on its legs. The shorthorns probably they look after themselves a bit too well, put a bit too much flat flesh on the back. But we're looking for a durable cow that's low maintenance. Nothing that's going to work too hard. And we're looking for sustainability. We want these cows to be sticking around for a long while.
Yeah.
So that's the plan with that.
Yeah. Something a bit on the organic milk sector generally, I suppose, because I mean, organic it always seems it's gone through ups and downs over the tip, but then it seems generally has actually seen some quite significant growth. From your point of view, are you sort of confident about the future of organic in terms of milk?
Yeah, I mean, the way I look at the way I see organic and what the consumers see, it's all what I'll be at the checkout and I'll see the person next to me and I'd question them saying like, oh, you've got organic milk and stuff. And they said, oh yeah, it's for my kids. And then people tend to buy a lot of organic stuff for their children. That's quite a common trend I found. You get older, they're not, some people are not too worried about what they drink, but they're very, with young parents, organic seems to be very strong in their mindset that it is healthier. So that's quite a nice thing to be involved with, really. As far as I mean, with conventional farming, they've done leaps and bounds, to be honest, with the way they've been farming. I mean, they didn't really do much favors probably 10, 15 years with blanket treatments and stuff, but the last 10 years, conventionally farms, and I think it's made organic farms work harder to bridge that gap. So I suppose now we've probably got over the antibiotic problem, because a lot of conventional farms, there's selected dry cow therapy and stuff like that. We're looking more to do with carbon. That seems to be the big one. Separate things, saying, we're trying to graze cows, and I know conventional farms do that as well, and really play on the environmental string, if you like. And that's so. I think there's always going to be a place for organic. Absolutely.
This is actually the perfect time, guys, to give a shout out to the Down to Earth event, which is happening on the 15th of June. Google that. I don't know whether there's still tickets available. I'm sure there probably are. There probably is still space if you wanted to get involved.
Yeah, there is. Yeah.
But do check that out if you are a livestock person. And that's fairly near to you, actually, isn't it?
Yeah. So we're say 18 miles south of here. So I know Tim's drastically pressure washing and streaming and
yeah, I bet he is. It's such a good idea, and I'm sure it'll be a really great day. Talking of doing lots of stuff, you are quite a lean team. But do you get much time off? It's always one of those questions you ask a dairy farmer. It's like, is that even a thing?
Well, we do. I've got a good team, and so there's 2 full-time, and then there's one a boy that comes in, old boy that comes in. He'll love me saying that, and he comes on a Saturday, Sunday morning and helps out. As far as time off, yes, I do get time off. My son plays for 2 football teams. My other son, he's into fishing. My daughter's into gymnastics.
Okay, so lots of ferrying about. Yeah.
I'm just taxi service on my day off.
Let's talk a bit more about you.
Yeah.
Where did you grow up, and do you have a farming background at all?
Well, we're fellow Essex boys. I don't know if you realise.
Oh, wait, I did. I mean, I sort of picked it up. But I didn't know that. Oh, great! I say, we can now just talk about Essex
so
now for the rest of the time.
So Southend-on-Sea is where I was born.
Okay.
Didn't spend a lot of time there really, but I moved closer and closer towards East London as I grew up.
Okay.
I primarily spent a lot of time in a little town called East Tilbury.
Yep.
Which is right on the Thames estuary.
Yep.
Opposite Gravesend.
Yep, that's really near George Young, actually. He's down Fobbing way.
Yeah, so I spent a lot of time there. My upbringing, was not agricultural. There's not much agriculture around there, to be honest. It's quite industrial. Most people ventured into London to work. London was only 20 minutes on the train. So my upbringing and career advice at school was pretty poor. And I've always enjoyed animals or sport. There were the two things I thought was a youngster that I'll do, either animals or sport. And I used to love going to any day out. I went to the zoo with my parents. I loved going to the zoo. But I quite quickly realised that there wasn't a job in that. You can't really get up close and stroke a tiger every day.
I still don't know how you become a zookeeper. It's like, how do you get that job?
No, I don't know. But I realised that it wasn't sustainable, and that wouldn't be the career I went down. So where my career started, at college I did leisure and tourism.
Okay.
I was a lifeguard, and I did that. And then when I was 17, I started volunteering on an outdoor centre in East London. So climbing, kayaking. And that was really good because it was a voluntary scheme for a year until I was 18. And then the hours I worked, I got paid back in courses. So I did archery courses, powerboat courses, and stuff like that. Cool. So that was pretty fun. And then I did that. So once I turned 18, I did that for about 4 or 5 more years. And I really enjoyed it. I got a lot out of that. Working with disability groups, autistic groups, they were fantastic.
Yeah. This is really interesting. You're actually the second person on the podcast. Nikki Oxall's the other one who got into farming through a roundabout route, through sort of outdoor stuff.
Yeah. So the only bit of farming I ever did, if you can class it this, was reversing powerboats in with a tractor. So that was it.
Great.
Yeah. So that's where I met my wife, and then we were there, and we looked at moving to Chester and Shropshire. We got engaged, and Leanne was 19, I was 22. And then we saved up a good chunk of money, and we realised that we should probably flex our wings a bit and go travelling. Okay. So we put our CV on the internet it was just a general job site in New Zealand. And 2 jobs came, either fruit picking or dairy farming.
Okay.
So we could have gone either way. Fruit picking sounds as boring as it sounds,
Yeah, spending quite a few weeks of my summer doing that. It's it is. Once you've done one day, you've seen it all.
Yeah, exactly. I've seen fruit and I've seen a tree. I didn't really need to make more up. So dairy farming just sounded a challenge. It sounded exciting. And it was a 950 cow farm on the Canterbury Plains. And I knew nothing about farming. And I'm honestly, Ben, I thought I was milking them by hand. That's all I thought. I thought, geez, that's going to take me all day to milk them.
Yeah.
So we jumped right into the hot seat really, and went to New Zealand and landed on this 950 cow dairy farm.
Wow.
And it was the hardest thing I've ever done. It was impressive, and I remember turning up, and the first person I met after the owners was this guy who was Swiss.
Okay.
And when he turned up at the farm, he'd never farmed before, and he didn't speak English.
Wow.
And I thought, well, if he can do it, I'm one step ahead.
I can at least do the English bit.
Exactly. So I thought, right, I got a good step here. So we went for it, and we was 8 months on that farm, and it was hard. I mean, it was a 50 bale rotary. We was milking for nearly 10 hours a day. It was relentless. Yeah, it was relentless.
Blimey.
Yeah. And
did they pay you?
Yeah. They did, yeah. Yeah, but it was pretty good. Like, we got a little cottage. We got all our meat free, and it was 6 days on, 2 days off. So our 2 days, we just ventured around. We bought a little camper van. And we just did a bit of touring while we were living there.
Wow, that is incredible, isn't it? So that was just a complete life change, which none of the stuff you've done since would have happened happened then. So you then got married. I take
Yeah,
it. Did you then go back to New Zealand, or did you come back to the UK?
yeah. So I think if we just come back from the UK, I wouldn't have farmed again. I just thought
Okay.
it was a very much a factory farm, but it was good. I'm pleased I experienced it, because when we moved back to New Zealand, we went to another farm, which was was in a little town called Murchison, which is about 2 hours south of Nelson in the South Island.
Okay.
And the farm was in a place called the Tutaki Valley. And it was incredible. It was very mountainous, very picturesque, beautiful place.
Yeah.
The parlour was built by the farmer and his dad out of scrap metal. And it was a rotary, which is impressive. They were very good Kiwi ingenuity. Incredible. It was how they built it, but it was amazing. And I spent 4 months on that farm, and that's where I fell in love with farming.
Okay, that's interesting. And then you came back to the UK.
We came back just before Christmas, and then I walked into a job centre in East London and asked for a dairy farm job. And you should have seen the look. Like, they were like, "Oh, okay."
So it's bad enough asking just anywhere in the southeast, let alone in London.
Yeah. So I don't think they were. I think I was the only one ever to ask that. So there was 2 farms, one in Shropshire, Longna, with Tim, and then the other one was the first farm that I visited. And I wanted to try farming in England, really. And after travelling, I wasn't really worried. I mean, England's so small when you compare it to other places, but you think it's so big when you don't travel.
It's funny, isn't it? Yeah.
It's so strange. And then, so I wasn't worried. I mean, I would have gone on to the Shetland Islands. It really didn't bother me where I went.
Yeah.
But just so happens, probably my parents are happy I didn't end up on the Shetland. But so it was one up in it wasn't Cirencester. It was Harrogate and Shrewsbury.
Okay.
We looked at both farms.
Both nice places.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Tim's farm, really, he was very pro New Zealand. He spent a lot of time in New Zealand. And I think that probably helped me get the job, because I came with just a bit of experience. I mean, and it was a herdsman's job, not even a herdsman's assistant. So I probably was probably punching a little bit above my weight. But he obviously had, he obviously saw potential in me, so that was encouraging.
Yeah.
And I joined Tim's farm, and that was 16 years ago.
Blimey! Wow.
So it's a long time.
That's a lot. That's a lot of milkings.
Yeah. So I was Tim's herdsman for 10 years at Longna. And then 5 years ago, I remember going on holiday to Ibiza with the family. I came back and he said, "Oh, I bought a farm." I was like, "Oh," and it was pretty like sudden. I don't think he really was expecting to even get. Anyway, so they asked me to manage the farm, because I was been at Tim's 10 years, and I was ready for a move. I was ready for a change. I was ready for a step up. So 5.5 years ago, we moved to Webster.
Oh, fantastic. So I mean, just pausing a minute on getting into the industry, new entrants. Obviously, not everyone's going to go to New Zealand,
no.
But your routine is definitely one, getting experience in that way. It's something we go on and on about on the Kite podcast in dairy, especially getting entrants in is tough at the moment. So from your point of view, what more do you think that dairy could do to make working in dairy attractive for new entrants?
Yeah. I mean, I've tried to be, for me, and how I see it, and what I'd like to do is just going forward is being good ambassador for dairy, connecting with young people early. I think that is key. If I connected with a farmer when I was in junior school, maybe, or senior school, and went onto a farm, it definitely would have made me think, "Oh, this is a possible career choice for me."
Yep.
I've done a few careers days already this year. Back in January, I went into a senior school in Shrewsbury, and it's shocking. And we were only in Shrewsbury. I mean, not even Birmingham or Manchester.
Yeah.
And it's surprising how many young people have no idea about farming or dairy farming. And it's right on their doorstep. So connecting with young people, open farm Sundays, we have beaver groups on the farm. We have the Cubs. We've had football teams come and do farm tours. For me, that it's got to start. It's education, starting when they're young, showing them that, we're not, not horrible people, because I think social media has tarnished us with this brush that we're not the nicest, and we're grumpy. We're always moaning, and it's trying to be a good ambassador for me.
Yeah. I can tell you, listeners, as well. I think Andy's had the biggest smile on his face throughout all this, so definitely not against that stereotype. But been on the sort of opening up front, and an open farm Sunday, for example, as a dairy farm, as a stock farm, there are a lot of farmers out there who. It's about the biosecurity question, and B, I suppose, just the general security question about being slightly more wary about doing those kinds of things. What would you say to those farmers?
I mean, I suppose with our farm, we've got a public bridleway that runs straight through the middle of my farm. And at first, I thought that was a curse. I thought that's going to be a nightmare. But I tell you, it's brilliant, because it makes you an honest farmer.
Yep.
It makes you. It makes you look at the farm as a consumer, and it's fantastic, because I'm farming as a consumer, really, rather as a farmer. At the end of the day, the consumer is number one. Without them, we won't be able to move forward. I mean, the biosecurity is always a risk. I don't think, even as farm security, it's always a worry. As I said, we've got that bridleway. We've done what we can. We've got CCTV. We're off the beaten track, which is nice. So we are quite lucky with our location. But if someone wants to find your farm and cause trouble, they'll find it. So, as best will in the world, I think. And then I think the biggest defense is offense for me. Going back to the sport analogy. If you hide away, I think people think you've got stuff to hide. If you're open and upfront and honest, people won't look at you that much and think, oh, well, obviously.
What about from the getting into the industry point of view? So you're not from a farming background. Perhaps someone isn't from a farming background, or perhaps they are from a farming background, but from a different sector, and say they're from an arable farming background, and they're more interested in stock, but they don't feel like they have enough or any experience. Is that an issue?
Oh, not at all. Absolutely not. We've had a young lad this year. He's come on farm. And he's been doing 2 days a week. And I think just put yourself out there, contact a farm and offer to do voluntary work, because I tell you what, farmers will not say away to no free labour. And that is the best way to learn. I mean, I've lost count of how many young people I've had in the parlour, just getting to observe first of all. Once they feel confident, they can dip a cow. Once they feel more confident, they can put a unit on. Just contact a farm, and I'm sure go on Facebook and things like that. Instagram. I mean, it's impossible now not to find somewhere, or find somebody in the industry, and they'll lead you in the right direction. Especially in Shropshire, there's so many people, salespeople. Walk into your agricultural shop, I bet they know a handful of farmers that'll give their number. Not a problem at all. Yeah.
No, great tips there. Talking of Instagram, I was looking at your Instagram account. You're into your cold water stuff. You're into your Wim Hof.
Well, yes. This started.
When did that start, and how?
Well, so it was probably 18 months ago. I suffered really bad with sciatica.
Okay.
That's where it started. And I was really contemplating, can I do this? I mean, I'm 39 now, and I was contemplating, I can't do this for the rest of my life. I was in so much pain, Ben. I could only, and it wasn't sustainable. And so that sort of led me down this tunnel of healing and trying to figure out how I could be sustainable for myself in this industry. Because I didn't want to give it up. I love what I do, but I was dragging my leg around most days, and I was in so much pain. And so, I mean, I don't know where the injury came from. I've done a lot of running, done a lot of half marathons. I've done mud runs. So I used to do a lot of running. Then I came to the farm here, Webster, and that was unsustainable because I was so busy. So I visited a physio, and he said that my left glute was quite weak. So that set me off in the gym, and I set myself a training program to strengthen myself. And then the cold water plunging sort of spiraled a little bit at that, trying to, like cold water plunge, it's good for your central nervous system, it's good for your muscles. So that's where it sort of started. And so I don't really do it too much this sort of year because I'm late. I could be proactive and put ice in and stuff like that, but I usually do it really the back end of the year. So I don't know if you see me Instagram. Blimey. It's an old trough that I did pressure wash. And I think the coldest I got in was -10.
Wow. Yeah, you're doing it good and proper, because I do it in a fake way. So I do the cold showers, but I have thought it's like, oh, you really should do it with the plunge pool way, shouldn't you? Because that's the way of doing it good and proper.
They do say that there is more benefit with plunging. So the thing, the coldest was -10, and I had to take a sledgehammer to the ice on top before I got in. And it's not for long. It's 2 minutes. So and
that's long
you
enough.
Come out rose red.
I bet you do.
It's an experience.
Yeah, for sure. Big question here. Where do you see yourself in 10 years' time?
I did. This is probably the hardest question you sent me. And I thought about it. And do you know what? I followed sort of my gut. I've always thought, I've faced challenges when they come along. So my answer, I think, as long as I'm happy, as long as I'm healthy, as long as I'm enjoying what I'm doing, that will do.
That's a great answer. We are going to start wrap this up. I've really enjoyed this chat. But so we always finish the show with the same 2 questions, which I'm going to ask you now. First is, if you have a message for the public, what would it be, Andy?
Drink only organic milk. No, I'm joking.
It's fair.
I'll get a lot of backlash off that.
I mean, you definitely would. Probably not the wisest of messages.
Your food comes from, then ask the right people. I think it's probably quite a common message on your podcast is stop listening to the wrong people and the wrong propaganda. If you're keen to find out where your food's from, then ask the farmer, ask someone within the industry. If you can't be bothered to do that, then just eat British, because there's no better standard of standards in the world. Just eat British, and then you'll be on the pretty good road there.
Brilliant. And finally, a message for farmers.
Oh, for farmers, I think, be positive, try and push farming in a positive light, but connect with people, and don't do so much moaning. It's a pretty good industry to be in. I know it's tough, I know it can be hard at times, but I think the only way we're going to connect and attract young people into our industry is showing it in a good light. Be positive, have a smile, and connect with young people.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good message for life as well, isn't it, generally? Just be positive, have a smile, and don't moan so much. We'll leave it there. Thank you so much, Andy, for coming on the show. It's been an absolute pleasure. How do people follow you on social media?
Sure. I'm mainly on Instagram, Andy_Farrow5, or just Andy Farrow. You'll find me.
Awesome. Go and give them a follow, guys. Thank you very much for listening. As always, please do subscribe to the show on whatever podcast platform you're using, the usual way, so you don't miss any future episodes. Next time, I'm heading down south. We'll be in Oxfordshire, and I'll be speaking with arable farmer Matthew Izzard. So I hope you can join me for that. I'm Ben Eagle. This has been Meet the Farmers, and I hope you all have a great week.
Yeah, so normally the questions are what I mentioned, Chip and Norton, are how close are you to Clarkson?
Exactly.
About 4 miles.
So, oh, wow.
Yeah,
no, so he's your neighbour?
Not quite, but we don't know Clarkson that well, but we know Caleb quite well and Gerald. So
wow.
it's
massive.
It's a great part of the country in the Cotswolds, and we're farming in the Evenlow Valley.